So here we are. Boro have once again put themselves into a position where we essentially could take one big step into the top six. Can we get past Luton Town? What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Project Boro preview show, the series here on the channel where we of course preview every single Boro game, and today we're looking ahead to the final game before the November international break, which is Boro's home game to Luton at lunchtime on Saturday. Now, before I get knee-deep into Luton Boro, the game itself, I just want to quickly just stop and say a huge thank you to everyone who has tuned in to both the Project Boro reviews, the previews as well. Obviously, the preview series is brand new on the channel this season. But yeah, both of the series continue to just grow brilliantly. The views that I've had on some of the videos have been absolutely amazing, and especially the previews, which, as I say, are brand new. The views on some of them have been fantastic, and to get lots of compliments from my own Boro fans, our own, is amazing. But I've also had lots of really, really nice comments from opposition fans who've obviously tuned in to hear me talk about their team, and I've had some really nice complimentary words and feedback on my approach and how I sort of analyse the opposition. So that really means a lot. So a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in and is enjoying both series so far. So looking ahead to this weekend's game, and it's quite a big one for Boro for a number of reasons. The first is it's an opportunity for us to string together back-to-back wins, which we've only done once this season, and a certain degree of consistency, which is costing us massively in terms of getting a run going, really building momentum. It's held us back massively this season. Time and time again, I've discussed on the channel how often we've put ourselves into a great position off the back of a win, and in the following game, we've even put ourselves into a good position in-game and found a way to drop points, lose the game, bottle it, throw it away. And every time we've had one foot in the playoffs, we've essentially shot ourselves in the foot and fallen away again. So we are faced with another chance this weekend to build some consistency, to get ourselves into the playoffs, and it's also a big game because it's at home, and Boro's home form this season is probably the biggest area of frustration, not only because that's where most fans see Boro play, but our home form is absolutely miles off where it should be. We're 16th in the championship for home form, which isn't great. It's a lesson we've not learnt from last season. We were a playoff team away from home last season, but a dismal mid-table team at best at home. It's exactly the same this season. We simply have to be better at home. No team in this league gets promoted with mediocre home form. So it's a big game because of just the sort of game it is. It's a big game because it's at home. It's also a big game because of when it is, because if it can send Boro into the international break with 2 wins in a row, maybe in the top 6. I'm not going to say all is forgiven in terms of Boro's start to the season, because we've still thrown away an unforgivable amount of points and should really be at least top 4, top 2 with the position we've put ourselves in at times. But I do think it would just ease off some of the pressure, the nerves, the unrest that is boiling away in certain areas of Boro fan base still, even after the QPR result. So yeah, to go in on a win would just give everyone a nice happy feeling heading into the 2-week break, ready to kick on in what will be a big, quick, chaotic, fast-paced Christmas period where, a run of results can change things dramatically. But if we go into that international break with another defeat, reverting back to really underwhelming poor home form, then the QPR win will be forgotten and we'll return back to being an incredibly frustrated team and fan base. So it's a big, big, pivotal game. So looking ahead to the opposition then, Luton Town come to town, and if you think Boro's start to the season has been underwhelming, Luton Town's is on another level. They've spent a lot of this season hovering above the drop. At times they've been in the drop. It's been a nightmare start for the Hatters, and one I didn't expect. I mentioned this in my early championship prediction videos. I thought they'd be the easiest of the 3 relegated teams to adapt into the championship. I thought they'd recruited with relegation in mind. They'd come down with a lot of top championship players already. I thought they'd have continuity. I thought they'd have calm. I thought they'd have clarity. And I just thought they'd just adapt and kick on and not let relegation affect them whatsoever. But by far, they've struggled the most with relegation and have just not got going at all. They currently sit 19th off the back of a 1-0 win midweek against Cardiff. That win has dragged them out of the bottom three. Even without, even a point wouldn't have been enough given how tight it is. They're actually only out of the bottom three still on goal difference, which, is nowhere near good enough for a team that have just come down from the Premier League. And I think maybe the expectation is just taking its toll on Luton. They're so good. They've always been so good at being the underdog. And I think for once, they're the ones with expectation. They're the ones with the tag of being favourites. And I just don't think they've really adapted well to that. And to be fair, there's no signs of them adapting to it anytime soon. But they're not a team I imagine to be in any trouble. But if they fail to make playoffs, undoubtedly as a parachute team, it's a massive, massive disappointment. Out of the 14 games they've had this season, they've won 4, drawn 3, lost 7, which is up there with the most defeats in the league this season. Even Pompey, Plymouth, Cardiff, who had a dreadful start, they've all lost 7 games equally. So not a very good number of games that have come to a defeat for Luton. And their win against Cardiff on Wednesday was their first win in 4 league games. Only once this season have they won back-to-back games, and that was back in September. So, like Boro, really, you could say they're an incredibly frustrating, inconsistent team. And I think just the difference between us and them is that I guess we've not lost as many games as what they have. They are still only 6 points behind us, given the tightness of the championship. But of their 4 wins, a bit of a positive for Boro is that only one of them has come on the road this season, and that was the win I mentioned earlier that come in that brief back-to-back spell when they won 1-0 away to Millwall. That's their only away win of the season. Their other 3 wins have come at Kenilworth Road, so they're down there in terms of away form. They're 19th in the championship for away form, so they're not the best travellers. In terms of their statistics, they're not doing too great either in both metrics. They are slightly underperforming, I would say. Not massively, but they're not exactly setting the world alight. They're not like Boro, who are, top of most metrics, but are just, shooting themselves in the foot. Luton are sort of doing all right, but are still underperforming, hence why they are where they are. So they're 16th in the league for goals scored, which isn't great, given the attacking talent that they have at their disposal. Tahith Chong's a fantastic player. I'll get onto their threats and their potential team in a moment, but obviously when you're coming down with Adebayo and Morris, you've got 2 incredible, championship ready-made forwards there. They just haven't got going. So 16th for goals scored isn't great, and their XG going forward isn't the best either. It is in the top half, in fairness. They're 9th for XG, but still, I'd expect them to still be even higher than that, to be honest. They're 9th in the league for big chances and 8th for big chances missed. So again, it pairs up with their XG really there. A little bit more higher than mid-table. They're above the average of chance creators in the championship, but they're still by no means anywhere near the top for attacking numbers. And their style is quite interesting as well. They're a very low possession side. They're actually 17th in the league for possession. They average only 47.3%, and they're 20th for accurate passes. So this is going to be a game where I think Boro absolutely dominate the ball, and Luton will try and maybe break quickly on Boro, try and get the ball forward really quickly, playing it up to maybe Adebayo or Morris, whoever starts, and playing off of them from there. Their big avenue from attacks comes from the wings, like Coventry, who we discussed a week or 2 ago. Luton are equally huge on crosses. They are the second biggest team in the league when it comes to the number of crosses they put into the box. So I think it's safe to say, coming forward, they won't have the ball much. They'll probably try and get the ball forward quickly, get it out wide, and whip balls into the box for Adebayo, Morris, or whoever happens to be in the box at that given time. Defensively, they are underperforming even more so. You could say Attacking wise, okay, they're not the best, they're not the worst, but it's still a little bit underwhelming. I think defensively is the big surprise really for Luton and how badly they've started this season. They're 19th for goals conceded. They've conceded 21 goals this season, so it's in and around some of the teams down the bottom end of the table. They've conceded more than Preston, more than Cardiff. They're just behind Queen's Park Rangers for goals conceded as well. But the interesting thing is their XG against is actually all right. They're 16th for XG against, so again, not top 6, but they're sort of lingering in the top half in terms of how well they're performing defensively, in terms of the chances they're giving up, but they're still conceding more than what they should. Again, a little bit like Boro, I would say we're quite equal in terms of our underperformance. Boro maybe in just a slightly higher bracket at the moment. But yeah, to summarise, Luton, I'm sure if things begin to click, it won't take much for them expected numbers to turn into reality, and they might start scoring more. They might start keeping goals out the back of the net. Certainly, the performances, the defensive performances and their wastefulness in front of goal has held them back massively this season. As for the Luton team, looking at the last game they played, it displays as a 3-4-3 on FootMob. I think it's more of a 3-4-1-2. But yeah, they tend to play 3-4-1-2. They'll have Tahith Chong dropping in the middle of a 10 with 2 forwards in front of him. Sometimes they play Adebayo and Morris. Sometimes they'll play one or the other. So I'll be very intrigued to see if they go with both or just the one against Boro. But Chong is usually at the 10, and he's a very, very dangerous player. Regardless of where Luton are in the league, he's a player I do fear. He's a player I do think, if given the time, can really hurt the opposition. A very skillful, technically gifted footballer. So Boro have got to be aware of Tahith Chong and what he can bring to the team. They've obviously got Morris and Adebayo, who I mentioned earlier, and they're 2 players who, again, you can't take lightly, even though they've both probably underperformed this season. Morris is still their top goal scorer with 4. Adebayo only has 2. And I don't know if he still is, but he was the most underperforming striker in the Championship. He's got an XG of pretty much 6, and yet he's only scored 2. And I've seen it. I know people don't like XG and numbers, but I've seen it with my own eyes in many, many games, highlights, live games I've watched this season. Adebayo was fluffing so many chances to start the season. The goals have flown slightly for him of late, but yeah, it's safe to say they've got 2 strikers there who, even though they've not had a good start, could still just burst into life. So Boro have got to be very, very wary of them, and their star player is Alfie Doherty. Now, everything creative goes through him. As I mentioned, 3-4-1-2, and the sheer number of crosses they put into the box. He is their star man. He is their number 1 attacking outlet, and big positive for Boro. He finished the game against Cardiff injured in midweek, and I think they tried to bring a stretcher out. He didn't leave on a stretcher, I don't believe, but yeah, he didn't finish the game. I think he was on the ground when the game finished. He could be out for this game, which would be a huge blow for Luton, because, as I say, a lot of their crosses, pretty much all of their set pieces, are taken by Alfie Doherty. He is an incredible creative footballer, a fantastic left-sided player. One I'm surprised is in the Championship, if I'm honest, and is a big difference maker. So that could be a huge weapon that won't be available to Luton Town's armoury if he's missing. So keep your eye on that one when the lineups drop on Saturday morning. But still, Adebayo, Morris, they're still going to have players. Their style is still going to be to whip crosses into the box, and that's where Boro struggled against Coventry. 2 of Coventry's 3 goals come from crosses from either side, and I wouldn't say Boro dealt with them well at all. Both goals were avoidable, both goals were poor to concede, and Boro have defended their box really well at times this season, but the Coventry game is certainly a slight red flag for me in terms of how we defended against one heavily reliant crossing team, and we've got another one coming up this weekend. Talking of how Boro might combat that high crossing team, this is how I would line up. Now, a lot of this is injury-led. I wouldn't change the team massively, unsurprisingly, after the QPR win. The back 5 takes a slight tweak. The midfield, the centre-back pairing, will remain as is. And I think we'll go with what we finished with during the midweek game because Borges went off injured, and I know what Carrick's like with cautiousness and players returning from injury, so I think we'll see what we finish that game with. Luke Ayling will probably shift across to left back. He's just a very adaptable, reliable footballer, and Dijksteel will start on the right. As I say, they've both got a huge job on their hands in terms of preventing the crosses coming in that Luton will definitely chuck in regardless of their personnel, and Edmondson and Clark have got to defend the box as best they can and have probably got to defend it better than what they did against Coventry. Hackney comes straight back in for me. I've mentioned this. Johnny Howson, I love him as a footballer, great servant for the football club, club captain. There's certainly times where he's definitely the right man to bring in, but anybody who says he starts ahead of Hackney or Morris are absolutely nuts, in my opinion. I hear it on a lot of podcasts, I see it online a lot. Johnny Howson is glorified as this midfield maestro, and although he's a good player, he is not better than Hackney or Morris. They are both levels above our other midfielders, and their chemistry together as a duo has grown into something really, really good. So I simply don't subscribe to Johnny Howson suddenly taking that shirt off Hayden Hackney. No chance for me. Hackney comes back in along with Aidan Morris. He will have to be careful, Hackney, though. He is going to return from one suspension, but he's one yellow card off getting another, so please, Hackney, don't do anything stupid. Front four, though, is simple. It picks itself every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Finazaz at the 10 was outstanding midweek. McGree as well has to start. Ben Doak, I'm hoping there's no magical, out of the blue fatigue issues this week like there was last weekend. I hope he starts again, because if, Luton do push wing-backs forward to, try and put crosses in, there could be space in behind for McGree and Doak to really exploit Coventry's back three. And if they do that, the space that could appear for Conway, for Azaz, could be really fruitful for Boro. So Doak could be, again, as he always is, a difference maker, and Conway has certainly taken that number 9 position away from Latte Lath. 5 goals for him now. He has been fantastic recently. So that's the Boro 11 I would go with. Head-to-head is fairly straightforward, to be fair, between the two teams. There's not been many meetings between Luton and Boro, mostly because Luton didn't enter the Championship until a few years ago. They then pretty much leapfrogged Boro and went into the Premier League for a season. So, yeah, there's only been 8 meetings between the two, and it's as split down the middle as it gets. 3 wins each and 2 draws in the middle. And like with a few teams we've looked at this season, home advantage seems to be massive in this fixture, which is a big benefit for Boro once again. If we take a brief look at Boro's record at Kenilworth Road, it is absolutely awful. We've not won at Luton at all in any of our 8 meetings or 4 trips down there. I think Luton have won 3. But of Luton's trips to the Riverside, it's not been great for them either. They did win once in February 2020, but since then they've lost every single time they've come to the Riverside in each of their last 3, I want to say. So, yeah, Boro seem to always do well at home to Luton. It's not a happy hunting ground for the Hatters. So, heading into my prediction, I think pairing Luton's poor away form and their record at the Riverside, and especially if they've lost Alfie Doughty, I think Boro should come out on top. I know I said this about Coventry, and we got a man sent off and started the game poorly. And there is a massive degree, and I've seen this in the comments rightfully, of some of my videos. You just don't know what Boro team's going to turn up, and that's an absolute fact. That's bang on. We could turn up and be mesmerising. We could turn up and be absolutely terrible. Luton have great individuals, so Boro have got to be extremely wary, but we need a good home performance. We need a convincing home performance that the home crowd can really cling to heading into this break. And I think just given Luton's up and down season, maybe losing Doughty, bad away record, especially at the Riverside, I back Boro to get the job done. I'm going to go 2-1. I feel like there'll be a moment of magic from Tahit Chong in there somewhere, or Morris might pop up from a set piece or something, but I'd like to think Boro will create enough to put chances away. We have put chances away of late, taking the Coventry game out of it when we were down to 10 men for 75 minutes. We did put 3 past Norwich, 4 past QPR. The goals are starting to flow, a little bit with this Boro side, so I'm hoping that'll happen at the Riverside too this weekend. But let me know your thoughts, whether you're a Boro fan, Luton fan, neutral in the comments section below, your predictions and thoughts ahead of this game. And if you've enjoyed the video, do get a like on the video, subscribe for more, and hit the bell too, so you never miss when a video drops here on YouTube. And if you do listen to these videos on your chosen podcast provider, which you can do via links in the description, give me a like, a rating, and a follow on your chosen podcast provider. And I'll be back to review the midweek round of Championship games on Friday, weirdly, because there's a midweek game on Thursday, which is odd. And of course, I'll be back to round up the weekend's action and, most importantly, review whatever happens at the Riverside before we head in to another godforsaken international break, the last one until March, thank God. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next one.